All right, welcome back. Now, in this last episode, we learned how to do the inventory box and made it a little bit more clean. Now, there's one part about the inventory box that we didn't cover. In this episode, we're going to finish the inventory box completely. So, the one part I was thinking about is we already made in this column code for the eat. So, if you have cooked meat, you can eat it. But what if you want to store cooked meat too? We should just make this variable because any other thing you want to use, we'll be able to use it in this column. So I'll show you how to make this whole column eat, like use the item or store the item. And you don't have to change anything really. So for this one, we'll leave, first of all, on the button, make sure the visibility is not bound to the set inventory visibility. So make sure there's just no binding there. So it's just going to be visible, okay? Now, the next thing we need to do is take these words, eat. Now, this is where the binding needs to happen. So let's create a binding here. So on this binding, what we're going to do is we're going to say if the inventory is active, right, then display one thing, and if it's not, display the other thing. Get our third person character. Get inventory state and drag off there and do a switch and click on the enum. Now on the switch here, we can make it do something different. So on the normal, we want it to say eat. On the inventory active, we want it to say store item. Cool. Now, also on the store item here, we need to have it a little bit more advanced than that, so we're gonna have to format the text. But it's okay. We just want to test it out to make sure it works. So that's what we'll call that one, and this is called instead of get text 11, let's call it set eat or store. Bet. Okay, now that we've got that done, let's save everything real quick. You could test it out to see if it works, but that's not where I want it to stop at. We need to tie this eat right here to make sure it's using that binding. And any other item that you want to use, if it doesn't say eat, then you want to use, a different binding. But if it is something you eat, you can use that same binding. Now, what happens is the button. When you click the button, there needs to be two different codes that happen. So let's see what happens when you actually click the cooked meat button. So we have our own code there for it already. But basically, we need to add a store code to it as well. So let's drag this eat code over to where we have all of our ones that we were storing. And we're just going to add on, but we don't have to do a switch. So on clicked. So from third person character, get inventory state. And then we're going to do a switch on inventory state right here. So depending on the inventory state, this thing will switch. So let's do a switch. Think of a switch as like a gate. It just flows through that gate and then it goes through many possibilities. So once it goes through this gate here, if the inventory state is normal, then we're going to do the normally just eat the meat. But if not, then what we're going to do is we're going to store the meat. So let's just copy one of these up here. Copy and paste. All right. So basically drag this inventory active down to here. So the button is going to do two different things based upon whether the inventory is active or it's not. So here, let's change this and let's get cooked meat right here. And plug it in. Then make sure you -1 from cooked meat, and we're not setting raw meat, setting cooked meat, set cooked meat, bop, bop. Make sure you set it to this number, plug this in here, do this, do this. Make sure instead of +1 to raw meat, we just plug raw meat right into raw meat, and we add 1 to cooked meat, +1, and plug that into the cooked meat slot. Perfect. Compile and save. So real quick, what's going to happen is if you press the button here, the eat button that we have, it's going to see what state we're in first. And then if we're in the normal state, it's going to do some normal stuff like eat the meat. If we're in the inventory though, it'll store the item. So let's check out and make sure all of that is working. And then we can move on to the next part. The next part is not that bad. Okay, so I press inventory right now. Scroll down, and I can eat the meat. All right, so then I go over here to the box, open it up by pressing E, and now if I go down to the cooked meat, I can store cooked meat. So everything's working perfectly. All right, so now we gotta move on to the next part, yo. Perfect, right? All right, so what we need to do is use that same logic, because if we look at this items HUD, we'll go back to the designer. All right, so this drop button, we need to make this, when we are in the inventory state, we need to make this say retrieve, right? So let's write one for that. So what we can honestly do is let's go to our graph and my blueprint over here. And so copy the last one that we made. So right click and duplicate it. Now this one's going to be called drop or retrieve. Okay, perfect. And if it's normal, then it's going to say drop. If it's in the inventory state, it's going to say retrieve. Perfect. So now we'll press compile and save. And what we'll do is take this drop or retrieve, and on each one of these, let's put it there. So find the word drop, and we're going to put drop or retrieve on each one of the drops. Okay, now that you have all those set, that should work too. The only thing we have to do now is find out how we can retrieve an item from the box and add it back to our player, right? So on the drop code, let's write some retrieve code. So where's all of our drops? It's over here to the right. So on the drop, let's just do the rocks right now so you know how to do it, right? So on the rocks, what we need to do first is, as the third person character, we need to check the state. So we're going to get inventory state. And then we're going to see, we're going to do a switch. And that'll be the first thing that happens. So now we can say, if it's normal, yeah, we want to drop it, right? But if it's if the inventory is active, what we want to do is retrieve that item. So let's write some code to retrieve that item. All right. The way we'll do that is we're going to basically get it from the inventory box. So we have to get to our third person game mode. So third person game mode, get game mode. Okay. And basically we got to see if they have it in there. So let's go to all items, get all items, split that open. All right, once you split it open, we're going to check on the rocks. We want to see, because this is rocks, remember. And we can change this instead of drop or retrieve rocks. Okay. So we need to check and see if they have at least one rock, right? So drag over here and say, is there one rock in the inventory? So is there greater than or equal to 1 from rocks? If that's the case, we need to put a branch. If it's not a case, we can't even retrieve the rock, so we can't do anything. So nothing happens from false. But if it's true, what we need to do is we need to take one of these rocks from the inventory. So minus a rock from the inventory, -1, and set the inventory. So right here, set all items. Perfect. -1 from the rocks right there. And the rest can just be plugged in like normal. This is happening on true, remember. So plug in all your other stuff like stone knives, there's anything else that you have in your game. Just make sure the rocks is going -1, but you're not finished. So the rocks are coming out of your inventory and then they have to get added to the player. So the third person character right here, we can get it, it's already in the code. So we already can have that character, but we need to add one to their rocks. So drag off of here and say get rocks. And then also drag off of there and say set rocks. So we're going to set rocks to this plus rocks +1. So +1. Bow. And this goes in right after you set the inventory. So the inventory is going to get -1 rock. The player is going to get +1 rock. But now the player has to do the current weight function and the weight check. Set current weight and the weight check. So let's do a current weight function from the player. Boom. Then let's set the current weight from the player. And just to be thorough with it, let's do a weight check from the player to make sure they're not overweight. I forgot to put the weight check in a lot of the other code. If you ever add to the player, do a weight check. And even if you take away from the player, it's good to do a weight check because maybe they were overweight, now they're not overweight, right? So that's why that weight check is there. Either way it goes, this is how you put dual code on the same button. Now it's going to be switching based upon which state the character is in, right? Let's test out that code. So this is just for rocks. We should be able to drop or retrieve the rock based upon whatever the code is in there. So let's make sure that's happened, and then we'll move to the third part about this, which is building the box. So let's play. Oh, we need to fix the player camera. All right, so I open up my inventory box. Now, because my inventory box is open, I can retrieve items from here instead of dropping items. But let's store some rocks here. So store this rock, store this rock. So now I have 2 rocks and I have 2 rocks stored. Let's close the box and let's come out here and press our inventory. So now I could drop this rock if I wanted to, but I have 2 rocks. Let's check and see about our weight. It's 4, that's perfect. Now let's retrieve those rocks from the box. So we're gonna retrieve. Now 1 came out of the inventory and 1 went to the player, and we're gonna retrieve another one. Let's see if we were trying to retrieve something else. It doesn't allow us, so we'll close it. Now let's check our inventory, and we have 4 rocks, but the weight is not correct, right? The weight is not correct. So our weight's 0. So let's check out and see why the weight is 0. Oh, because the current weight right here is set to 0. Boom, just set the current weight, plug it in, and now the weight will be correct. All right, cool. So now that we know how to do 1, all you gotta do is add that dual code to drop and retrieve on all of them, which you could just copy and paste to the rest of your drop ones. No problem there. I'm not gonna do it on this episode, but on this episode, what we are gonna do is we're gonna move on to the next part, which is actually building the inventory box. So let's go to our inventory box BP and let's look at it real quick. So it looks pretty nice, right? We got to remember the materials that's on it. So there's a material, and up top is a material as well. And it has gold. It has three materials on this mug. All right, so that's going to come in handy. First thing we need to do though for this is let's go to the event graph and let's build or let's make a variable. And let's say, is this built already? So built question mark. Because if it is built, we'll do certain things with it. If it's not built, we'll also do certain things with it. This code right here, I don't need this anymore. Go up to your interaction code though. So event interact. See, now this is where we need to put a branch. So grab off that built, get built, put a branch. If it is built already, then you can open the box. If it is not built already, then we're going to have to do something else. We're going to be able to build the box, all right? So what we'll do is let's make another custom event. Move that too far up. All right, let's make a custom event called build box. All right, and in order to build the box, all we're going to do is get the third person character. So cast the third person character, get player character. Okay. Now, do they have enough items to build this box? If they do, they can build the box. So let's check and see if they have enough items. So 2 hardwood, 5 scrap wood for now, okay? So get hardwood, get scrap wood. Event begin play, get that out of here. All right, so scrap wood, see if it's greater than or equal to 5. And see if this one is greater than or equal to 2. And if both of those conditions are true, then we need to put a Boolean. So in order to conjoin them and check and see if both of them are true, we need to say and Boolean. If you only wanted to check and see if one or the other was true, then you would have used an or Boolean. So I'm going to say if both of these are true, then put a branch. That's my condition. I'll plug that in. Then what's going to happen is I should be able to build the box. So what we should do is we should get this static mesh and also get this static mesh too. All right. So if you have enough of those, we need to build it, but we need to first take it away from the player. So from the player, what we have to do is to do a whole bunch of check weight function and all that stuff like that. So real quick, let's say hardwood -2 set hardwood okay, boom boom. And then scrap wood, we drag that off and say -5. And then we set scrap wood. Okay, and then what happens next is, woo, we're getting deep in here. It's getting lengthy, baby. All right, we'll take these 2 static meshes that we dragged off, and now we need to set the material. But first, let's do a weight check. Let's do a current weight function real quick. So from the third person character, since the weight changed, do a current weight function. And then set the current weight to whatever that weight is. Bow, bow. Okay, and now you can also do a check and see if they're overweight. So do a check weight. And then lastly, because that might have got them underweight, basically. That's why we're doing a check weight. So lastly, we need to build the box. So we'll take this static mesh here, and we'll drag off the first one, static mesh, and we'll say set material. Okay. And the material that we want is going to be the actual material that it is right now, honestly. So find that material. So static mesh right here, it's this material. So drag that into here. Boom. And then static mesh 1 right here, it has two materials. So the element 0 is this material. So let's go ahead and set material. I don't know if that's the same thing, but we'll just let it be. But then we also need from there set material again. This time element 1, we need to set that to gold. And I believe it's just regular gold, if I'm not mistaken. It sure is. All right, so we'll just set it to gold. Bow. Okay, now what's going to happen is the box will become live if you have enough parts. And that's on the build the box. Here's another thing that we can do is because the box is collision enabled, let's just set collision enabled right now. So right here, set collision enabled to collision enabled. Because on event begin play, which we dragged way up here, we'll just set collision enabled. On the static meshes, set it to no collision. And the reason why is because we're going to change it up so we can build it. So make sure the target on these are the static meshes right here. Bop and bop. Compile and save. Last thing we need to do is let's go to the viewport and let's change the color of this to placement material. So each one of these, change it to placement material. Placement. And also this, we'll change it to placement. Perfect. Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to add a widget. So let's add a widget. Add a widget. And this widget is just going to tell us how much we need to build this box. Let's just duplicate this one. So the widget that we're going to duplicate is in our build widgets, in our HUDs, and the bed one, we'll duplicate that. So instead of build bed, this is going to say build inventory box. Inbox. WB. All right, bet. So in order to build this box, let's click into it. It's going to need two things. So in this first one, this one says get text. Let's look at it. Hardwood out of 6. I think we only need 5. So let's just change that to 5. Boom. On the second one, what does it say here? It says get linen. We don't want it to be linen. We want it to be scrap wood. And actually, the scrap wood, well, hold on, let's take out this linen part and type in scrap wood. And it'll be out of 5 scrap wood, not linen. Okay, plug that up. Okay, and then let's go back real quick. The hardwood, I think you only need 2 of those. So hardwood is only 2. Compile and save. Perfect. Now you've got your inventory box, and whenever it's built, let's go ahead and double check the code though. Whenever it is built, oh, we didn't put it here. Whenever it's built though, you'll be able to open the box. If it's not built, you'll be able to build the box. And you'll only be able to build the box if you have enough items to build the box. Then you'll get your items, blah, blah, blah. The weight will do its thing, and the box will become live. At the end of this build a box, we need to set built to true. Oh, perfect. And then we're winning. We won the game. That's it. So that's the whole inventory box. If we want, we can go ahead and test it out real quick. And then we can end the episode. And after that, like I said, we're going to do the trophy case. That will set us up for the quest system. So right now, oh, you know what? Thank God we tested, right? This box in front of it, let's make it have some use. It doesn't have use right now. So in the inventory box, there's a little collision box. And on component overlap, we're going to write some code. So this widget here, we're going to make it visible. And we're going to make sure the class is the build widget class. So come over here where it says the widget class, and we'll say build inbox. Okay, and let's look at that. There it goes, way up there. Let's move it up a little bit so it's right above the box. Okay, cool. We need that widget to be turned off first. So visibility turned off. Then when you go into it, we're going to get that widget, set the visibility to true. When the third person character overlaps that box. And then when they stop overlapping the box, all we're going to do is copy everything and set it to false. So copy, paste, and just click false. Pop. Click on this box here so we can say end overlap right there and plug in the third person character to the other actor. Perfect. Now what's going to happen is when we walk into that box, it's going to tell us how much we need. But we don't want that box to always be working like that. So let's put in a branch here. If built is true, right? So if built, get built, if it's true, do not do this box, only if it's false. Same for the below. I mean, obviously it can't do the below if it can't do the above, but whatever. Boom. So now when built becomes true, this little pop-up box won't pop up anymore. Let's test all of that out. So before we even do anything, let's save, right click, play. Oh, I need some hardwood and some scrap wood. Let's go get it. 3 out of 2, 5 out of 5. So I press E and it builds it. And now what I have to do is make that, as soon as the built thing goes away, I have to make the widget invisible. So we'll also do that. Now I can open that up, boom, boom, and now I can use my inventory. So let's make that one little bug fix here. So click on your inventory box, go into the blueprint here, and there's a custom event that we made called build box. At the end of build box, what you want to do is make that widget, set visibility, and make it invisible. Perfect. Perfect. Now everything should be working perfectly and you've got your inventory box. So thanks for joining me in this episode. I will holla at you on the next one when we make the inventory case. Not the inventory case, but like the trophy case where you could collect figurines and stuff. That will set us up for the quest system. And we're almost done, man. I got some requests. Some people wanted to know how you can throw items. Another person wanted to know how you can do some gear that levels you up and stuff like that. We'll handle that, no worries. But I hope you learned something in this episode. Other than that, I'll holla at you on the next one. Peace.
Run to the money, on the feet don't fail. The DA and the judge wanna do their best to jail.